What's going on, guys? So let's talk about KIELY Rodnni real quick. Let's talk about the official narrative for KIELY Rodnni. They tell us that she went to a party with about 200 or 300 people. There was a lot of strangers at this party. There was a lot of drugs and alcohol being used at this party, and KIELY was using drugs and alcohol at this party. She went with her friend Megs, but Megs left 10 minutes into the party. Her other friend Sammy was at the party, but they weren't together the whole time. They just kept meeting together, talking for a little bit, then separating again, going hanging out with other groups of people and whatnot, and then coming back together again talking. And Sammy was supposed to ride home with KIELY, but at the end of that party, Sammy went up to KIELY and told her that she had another ride. She gave her a hug and told her bye. KIELY supposedly decides to leave less than 15 minutes later, forgets that interaction happened, calls Sammy at 12:36 and asks Sammy if she needed a ride or not. Sammy said, "No, I'm already on my way home. Thanks anyway." At this point, Sammy knew KIELY was getting ready to leave the party. She knew KIELY was too drunk to drive because she said so, and that's why she got another ride home instead of riding with KIELY. We have the fire cam footage that came out that shows KIELY went into that lake at 12:33. Okay, so how did she call Sammy at 12:36? This is like a huge problem with the official narrative and the stories that we've been told by Sammy herself, and what we've seen with our own eyes on the fire cam footage of when the car went into the water. We also know that the police could not find the car. We know that the FBI was also involved, but they were only involved on the human trafficking angle. They was worried if somebody took KIELY or not. They didn't really have a lot to do with the search of the waterways. The sheriff's departments are the one who was searching for KIELY. Apparently, they only searched out 25 feet into Prosser. She wasn't there, so they cleared it. A lot of people start messaging AWP, asking AWP to come help find KIELY. She's missing. She was at a party at a reservoir, so she could be in the water. AWP responds and decides to come out and help find KIELY. On their way to search for KIELY at Best Buy, they run into a guy named Nick. Roadside Assistance Nick tells them the story. He says that he works for a roadside assistance company and that he went out on a battery call the weekend of the party, the weekend KIELY went missing. He couldn't remember which day, but his girlfriend says it was the Saturday, which is the day after the party, after KIELY was already missing. He says that the people he went to see, the vehicle and the girl, matched the description on the missing posters that he saw a week later. He said that he felt really weird about that call, so strange that he had pulled over and called his girlfriend to tell her about it, to tell her he felt like something was wrong, something like that. AWP asked him what was so weird about the call. He says that they were walking around the car, acting really weird. They looked like they were like really hungover or stressed out or had a really long night. They said they had been stuck there all night. He checks the car out, and all it is that the car's in neutral. So he gets the car running. She's asking him all kinds of weird questions about how do you buckle your seatbelt the right way, and can you buckle your seatbelt through your belt to make sure you stay there, and stuff like that. The guy that was with her was a skinny guy with brown hair and a black SF cap, wearing a wife beater. He called it a bro tank, I call it a wife beater. They were acting really weird. She was asking him about the seatbelt stuff. He felt really sketched out about it. So when he left, he called his girlfriend and he told her about it. AWP took them as very credible people. Nick even said that the vehicle he drives for work has a camera system on it, front and back, with outside audio. And that he had already reported this to the police, but he was letting them know so when they go search for him, they would know the last known location. So now, in AWP's mind, the last known location for KIELY was possibly Boca. Since the sheriff's department said they already cleared Prosser, AWP decided to start their search at Boca. They searched Boca, empty. They searched all the other surrounding waterways. They came up with nothing. On the second day, they decided, since they hadn't searched Prosser, then it hadn't been cleared. So they went out to search Prosser, even though the sheriff's department told them it was already cleared. 25 to 35 minutes later, they find Kylie. When they dived on the car and they went down, the passenger window was completely down. The rear driver's side window was down, but only halfway. You know how back windows only roll down so far sometimes. Kylie was in the very back hatch of the car. There was a strap hanging out of that car. These are all facts. Once AWP found her, they reported it to the family and reported it to police. Police then took over. AWP was not allowed to help in the recovery. The police go in, dive on the car, flip it over underwater, bust out the driver's window in the process, and then flip it on over onto its wheels, and then drug the car out backwards. Once they were pulling the car out, the wheels rolling freely, one of the officers reached in the car with her bare hands and steered that car, messing up any fingerprints possibly on the steering wheel. Once they got the car out, they sent it off. We didn't get to hear about anything else. A few weeks later, we get a live from this Check It TV guy who's diving on the site and recovering items that we saw in the car in AWP's video. So that tells us that when the police flipped the car, they didn't seal the windows up. Hopefully, they secured her body before they flipped the car over and just had her tumbling around inside the car. Good God. Pray to God they did something to stop that from happening. But they were reckless enough that they lost the evidence and they damaged the driver's side window, busting it out. They left the glass behind too. The Check It guy found the stuff, called the police. Supposedly, a lot of people say he didn't call them, but somebody called them. The viewers called them. There were phone calls put into the police to say that he had recovered items that they had lost out of the car. They didn't care. They didn't come get the items. He ended up turning the items over to the grandparents. I don't want to talk about Check It TV here. I'm just pointing out that the police were negligent. When they flipped the car, they damaged the evidence. They lost other evidence, and then they didn't come back for that evidence. Now, the official narrative to that is that she was drinking and driving, turned the wrong way, drove into the water, and drowned. Okay, that sounds legitimate until you start realizing that her passenger window was down and her rear window was halfway down. We're talking about a very tiny car here. So I've heard the arguments of, okay, well, it was dark, and once her lights went out, she couldn't see anything. If you're sitting in the driver's seat of the car, you know that the passenger window is down, especially once you hit water. If you're aware of what's going on, if you're not already dead or passed out, if you're aware when you hit the water, you are very aware that your passenger window is down. You're very aware that you were just driving this car, so you know where you are. The car went out 80-something feet from the bank. I understand it was recovered 55 feet from the bank. This was weeks earlier, and the water receded back a lot before they found her. She was in 14 feet of water, 85 feet out. She would have had to have floated for at least a minute if she was going out pretty quickly. It would have took at least a minute for that car to fill up with water and sink. Now let's imagine that when she hits the water, she knows where she is in the car. She knows that the window is down. Let's say she panics and she runs to the back of the car. Because that's the narrative, right? She runs to the back of the car, tries to escape from the hatch, chasing the last air in the car. But as the car is going down, the car is filling up with water. She doesn't run out of air until the car is full of water. Then she has to hold her breath. Now she's in the dark water, but she's in a tiny car. It seems to reason that by the time she had to hold her breath, she would have already gathered what's going on and what was happening and where she was in the car. Now let's imagine it's dark and the car flips over. Is it possible that she couldn't find her way to the window? Yeah. It's possible. It's possible she couldn't hold her breath very long at all. She was panicked. Her heart was racing. She couldn't find the window. Is it probable that somebody leaves the driver's seat of a car that just went into water, bypasses an open window, goes into the back seat, bypasses that open window, and goes into the hatch to trace air rather than to chase escape. It's not very probable, is it? Let's say that she stays in the driver's seat, water's rushing in the window, so she's scared to go out of the window. As the water's rushing in, she still has air. She doesn't run out of air until the water stops rushing in because the car is full of air. So she should be able to hold her breath and immediately swim right out that window of this tiny car. Even if she went to the back, when the water stopped coming in, when she took her last breath and started holding her breath, that is a very tiny car that would be hard to be lost in. I understand you can say she was drunk. I understand you can say it was dark. But go sit in your car, close your eyes, reach out, and you'll be able to find any part of that car you need to find, especially a door, because it's one side or the other, and an open window. Out that open window, one hard push, and you're back to the surface of the water. Now, it's a little bit different if you're passed out in the car, in the back of the car, when it all happens. Maybe you don't wake up until you're already halfway underwater. You're disoriented. You don't know what's happening because you just got put in the water. Or maybe you're dead before you go in the water. Now, if you were dead before you go in the water, what does that mean? Well, that means obviously that you wouldn't have drowned it because you wouldn't have breathed in any water. There wouldn't be any water in your lungs or stomach. Guess what Kylie's autopsy said? There's no water in her lungs or stomach. So, common sense would lead you to think that she didn't drown. Maybe there's some medical stuff going on that would say, yes, she did drown, you're just misunderstanding. Maybe not. But these are legitimate questions, right? What's up with the phone call? That's a very specific time of 12:36. The camera is a very specific time of 12:33. The phone cut off, supposedly, the last ping at 12:33. So how did Sammy have a conversation with Kylie at 12:36? I'd like the answer to that question. Was the phone in the car with Kylie? I've heard other people, commenters, and other YouTubers say, oh yeah, they recovered the phone, it was in there. Where is that released at? If you know, please let me know where it says the phone was recovered when they recovered the car. Because I never heard that, never saw that, and still can't find that information anywhere. I would like to know, was it? And if it wasn't, where is it? Do they think it got lost with other evidence that they didn't go back for? When they negligently flipped the car over and lost the other evidence? Or do they think somebody might have it? Have they checked Sammy's phone to see why the time discrepancy is there in the first place? Have they given any explanation for why Kylie wouldn't have went out the open windows? Have they given any explanation for why the windows would be down in such a weird way? That late at night, leaving a party. Have they? Have they given an explanation for why the police were so negligent when they did flip the car? Have they given an explanation for why they lost the evidence? Have they given an explanation for if they secured her body before they flipped the car? We hope they did. But it's not looking good for them, huh? Have they given an explanation for what was up with the strap hanging out of the back? Who took Sammy home? Have they given an explanation for how she drowned without water in her lungs or stomach? No liquid whatsoever in her stomach. Wouldn't there be liquid in her stomach from the alcohol? Wouldn't there be water in her stomach from where she swallowed water when she was drowning? Wouldn't there be water in her lungs if she drowned it? Wouldn't her lungs weigh more? These are just questions I have. I would like to know the answers to. Why did nobody check the fire camera? Didn't you know it was there? If it's a public access camera, why didn't we check it sooner? How did it take so long to go back and look at the exact time on the exact date of the last phone ping to see that video? What's up with the other people who stayed there and camped till 8 o'clock the next morning? Nobody ever heard or saw anything? What's up with the eyewitness that said that she saw it, reported it to the cops, and cops never followed up? What's up with all that? We're supposed to just let all that go because the cops ruled it an accident? I can't just let it go at that point. I would love to have these answers. Let me know down in the comments below any other questions you would like answers to. I'm going to make a list and I'm going to send an email to the Nevada County Police Department, the Placer County Police Department, ask them these questions. See what kind of response I get back. So please, give me your questions so I can add them to it. It needs to be based on the actual facts of the case. The actual reported facts of the case. Not our speculation, not what we think. Questions about what they actually said so they can explain themselves and we can get an understanding for what they're talking about. Otherwise, there's absolutely no way that this could have been an accident in my mind if her phone's not in the car, if the phone times and stuff don't line up, if it doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever why she would go to the back of the car rather than out the two windows in the other two sections of the car. If she was awake, she should have had a lot of time to react, to get out of that car, even if it took a minute to sink. A minute is a very long time to be sitting in a car, looking around, trying to figure out how to escape. A minute is a long time, especially with the window down right beside you. You know that. You hang on to the seat and the steering wheel, you wait for water to either quit coming in, or you go out before the water starts coming in. Unless you're not conscious. But let me know down in the comments below what you would like to ask. Like the video if you made it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Ring that bell. We'll see you guys later.